Hello guys to another episode of UK Box Office Charts. I'm Tony. Today we'll be focusing on the weekend for the 7th to the 9th of October 2022. A big weekend, a lot of stories, so let's get straight into it. At number 1 this week, a holdover from last week, at number 1 is Smile. Smile, which made £1,715,678. It was released in 521 cinemas. That's a site average of £3,293. As I say, it's on its second week of release, but it only dropped 8%. Quite clearly, Smile has captured the public. It's captured horror fans. 8% drop for a horror film is exceptionally good. It's basically unheard of. That's the big story this week. At number 2 this week was The Woman King. Woman King, starring Viola Davis. That had a gross of £1,308,685. It was released in 574 cinemas. That's a site average of £2,280. It's on its first week of release and there is no change. At number 3 this week, Don't Worry Darling. It's in its third week of release and it made £1,020,083. Quite an odd number to say. It was released in 664 cinemas, which was the widest release of the weekend. That's a site average of £1,536. It was a 44% drop. At number 4 this week, Ticket to Paradise. It's on its fourth week of release and it made £861,172. That's a site average of £1,323 as it was released in 651 cinemas. That was a 36% drop from last week. At number 5 this week, Amsterdam. This is the big surprise because Amsterdam has this huge, massive cast: Christian Bale, John David Washington, Margot Robbie, as well as a whole host of others, and it cost $80 million. A few years ago, this type of film would have brought everybody out to see it. But the market these days, it just seems that people aren't interested very much in star power because this film has flopped, and it has flopped hard. It is it's in its first week of release and it's at number 5. This film cost $80 million, keep in mind, and only grossed £632,722. In the American market, it made barely $6 million. Worldwide, a total of about $10 million. This film is going to be a massive flop, which is a real shame because I saw it at the weekend and I thought it was absolutely brilliant. I loved it. I would honestly consider it one of the best films of the year. I know not a lot of critics, a lot of audiences are sharing that opinion, but personally, I think it's up there as one of the best of the year. It was released in 614 cinemas. That's a site average of £1,030. As I say, it's on its first week of release, and so there is no change. The real shame, though, I would really recommend you guys see Amsterdam because I absolutely loved it. I think it deserves a prize. I think it deserves Oscars. I think it's a brilliant film. You should go see it. It definitely deserves better than the weekend gross that it has got. At number 6 this week, Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris. That grossed £514,977. It was released in 659 cinemas and it had a site average of £781. It's in its second week of release and that was a minus 36% drop from last week. At number 7 this week, also a new opener, The Lost King. That made £368,753. That's a site average of £660 as it was released in 559 cinemas. As I say, it's on its first week of release and so there is no change. However, I do want to mention again, this film should have done better. This is a British set film. It's being released in the UK market. Has Sally Hawkins, Steve Coogan from the team behind Philomena. This is a type of film which should have been packed throughout matinees, packed throughout the afternoon shows of cinemas, and people just aren't going to see it. There is something about this film which just is being pushed to the sidelines. It's very much like Amsterdam. Huge names, big stars, and a story which is interesting, and yet it's still being pushed to the side. Smile, a film which is at top of the UK box office this week. A relatively unknown cast, relatively unknown director. It's his first debut, it's his debut feature, and it's captured the public imagination. It's making millions in this country and across the world. The traditional box office is shifting. I think we are in the middle of a box office shift. Horror films always do well. Dramas, yes, they don't make as much money as a typical blockbuster, as a horror film, a high concept film, but they were always able to create a good amount of money for themselves. These type of films, Amsterdam, The Lost King, again, they should be big, they're not. This is the change in the box office. It is happening as we speak, guys. The box office, the UK box office, the worldwide box office is changing dramatically. Audience tastes are changing dramatically. These are the type of films, The Lost King, which in a few years will not be released in cinemas. They will be released straight to streaming, because at this rate, they will just not make any money at all. At number 8 this week, Ponyin Selvin Part 1. Apologies if that's not pronounced correctly. That was a weekend gross of £188,995. It was released in 91 cinemas and had a site average of £2,077, which is a big site average. It's a week on second week of release, and that's a 75% drop. That 75% drop is pretty average for an Indian film, and foreign language films in general. You'll often get the ethnic group related to the film, related to the language, popping out to go to cinema that weekend to see it, but then at the next weekend it will often drop down quite heavily. At number 9 this week is Minions, The Rise of Gru. That made £165,586. That was released in 449 cinemas across the UK this weekend. That was a site average of £369. It's been 15 weeks on release and still hanging around the top 10, so well done, Minions. But it was a 42% drop from last week. And at number 10 this week is See How They Run. That made £111,325. That was released in 449 cinemas. That's a site average of £369. It's been 5 weeks on release, and that was a 65% drop. And that's it for the top 10 this week, guys. However, I always like to do a little bit extra. I like to go through the box office figures, because you always find some fascinating stuff if you look through the figures. New releases, films which have overperformed. And so at this week, at 21, the 21st most popular film in the UK for the last weekend was Vengeance, the new film by BJ Novak, who you may recognise from The American Office. That had a weekend gross of £29,052. That was released in 134 cinemas. That's a site average of £217. It's on its first week of release, and there is no change. 134 cinemas, that's not bad for a very small film that wasn't ever going to get a huge release. However, it only made £217 per site, which is not very good considering the stars involved, considering the interest of the film, considering the plot of the film, the marketing of the film as well. It's not done very well. I'll be surprised if that film in the UK makes even 60,000 at this rate. It will probably disappear from the charts in just a few weeks. And at number 28 this week was the 30th anniversary 4K restoration of Bram Stoker's Dracula, directed by Francis Ford Coppola. That made £13,991. That was released in 76 cinemas. That's a site average of £184. It's on its first week of release, and so there is no change. Again, that's a pretty big number of cinemas, considering it is a re-release of a film which isn't considered a massive classic, a modern classic, as it were. But again, audiences just aren't going out to see it because it only made £184 per average site. So it's not doing too great. Unfortunately, that is the way of the UK box office lately. I think in the next few weeks, with Halloween Ends and Black Adam, the UK box office will probably pick up quite significantly. But these other films, as I was saying, The Lost King, Amsterdam, most likely films like that in the future will just not do very well. They'll fall flat on their face, frankly. And that's it for this week, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope to see you again next week. I will be releasing these videos in the future. Please check out my other videos. I do have a video here which is about how cinemas actually make money. You'd be surprised. It is not tickets and it is not food. I hope you click on that and have a watch. Thank you so much for watching. Like, subscribe, comment. Please comment. This is a new channel. I want to be able to engage with my audience. I want to be able to see what audiences want, see what my viewers want to see. So, yeah, leave a comment, see what recommendations you would like, and then I'll see what I can do. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Peace.